The first time I saw her I was 12 years old. My father's research ship had been contracted to chart the ruins on Lithorisphore, a world once home to an advanced civilization before some cataclysm had burned it down to stone and sand. To me, it was just another stop on his endless missions, another set of dried tablets and fractured walls that would one day make it into a scholarly journal no one outside the university clusters would ever read. But then she appeared. A girl, though girl wasn't quite right, stood in the hollow of a broken tower. Her skin shimmered faintly in the sun, like marble with a pulse. Her hair fell in strands of silver that shifted with the breeze, and her eyes glowed faintly blue, alive in a way the rest of this dead world wasn't. I remember thinking she looked sad. "You are small," she said in a voice like water over glass. "But you are alive. That is rare here." I stammered out my name, cheeks burning, because no one had ever spoken to me like that before, like I was someone worth noticing. She smiled, though it carried weight, like the smile itself was dangerous. "I cannot tell you who I am. Not yet. But when you are grown, find me again. You will know where to look." Before I could ask her anything else, the wind rose, my vision blurred, and when I blinked, she was gone. I told my father what I'd seen. He dismissed it as imagination, a trick of the heat, maybe a holographic remnant of the ruins. But I remembered every word, every detail, and I promised myself I would return. 10 years later. The universe has a way of grinding promises into dust. At 22, I was no longer the awkward boy staring wide-eyed at ruins. I was a junior officer in the Terran Exploration Corps, assigned to navigation charts and long-haul duty. My father had died in an accident years before, and I had buried myself in work, pretending not to feel the pull of her words. But I never forgot. Not once. When a deep space patrol brought us near Lithorisphore, I filed for shore leave. The captain raised an eyebrow at my request. No one had bothered with the scorched ruins in decades, but he approved it. The surface was just as I remembered. Endless dunes of red, skeletal towers jutting like broken teeth, the horizon warped by heat. I wandered for hours, retracing the path to that tower where I'd first seen her. I told myself it was pointless, that she'd been a hallucination, a lonely child's fantasy. But then, as the twin suns dipped low, I saw her again. Not a memory, not a dream. She stood in the same place, though taller now, her bearing sharper, regal. She wore a flowing garment that shimmered between shades of silver and deep indigo, as though woven from starlight. "You came back," she said softly, and her lips curved into that same dangerous smile. My throat was dry. "I promised." For the first time I saw her eyes widen, as if the words carried meaning I couldn't yet grasp. The princess revealed. Her name was Serenia, though she told me only after a long pause, as if revealing it carried risks. She was not just from Lithorisphore, she was of it. The princess of a fallen dynasty, the last survivor of the House of Velareth, guardians of an empire that had stretched across stars. The ruins were not just ruins, they were a tomb. Her people had destroyed themselves in wars of succession, their power broken by pride. She had been spared, hidden in a stasis lattice, awakened only when the stars aligned to sustain her again. "And you, human," she said, her gaze steady. "You found me when I should have been forgotten." I laughed nervously. "I was just a kid." "Yes," she said, "and now you are grown. As I told you to be." There was a weight to her words, like she had been waiting for this moment. I asked her what she wanted from me. "To remember me," she said at first. But then her expression hardened. "No, to help me." The middle. We met night after night in the ruins, while my ship orbited above, the crew none the wiser. She told me stories of her people, their rise, their collapse, the brilliance of their cities, the cruelty of their ambitions. She carried both sorrow and pride in equal measure. And I told her of Earth, of oceans and forests, of music and laughter, of how small and fragile humans seemed among the stars, but how stubbornly we endured. She listened like each word was precious. But as the days passed, I noticed shadows in her eyes. She spoke of those who still linger, ancient enemies of her house, watching from hidden systems. She warned me that the galaxy was not safe for someone like her. One evening, as the red suns bled across the sky, she touched my hand. Her fingers were cool, delicate, but they trembled. "I told you to find me when you were grown," she whispered, "because I knew my fate would rest not in soldiers or kings, but in you." My heart pounded. I wanted to ask why me, of all the billions in the galaxy. But I already knew the answer, because I had seen her when no one else had. 'Cause I remembered. Choice. On the 10th night, the sky burned. I awoke to alarms shrieking through the ruins. Dropships descended in fire trails, sleek black vessels that did not belong to any Terran fleet. Serenia's face went pale. "They found me," she hissed. I barely had time to react before soldiers in dark armor poured into the ruins, weapons glowing with violet plasma. Their helmets bore the mark of a serrated circle, the emblem of the Karate Dominion, the very enemies who had destroyed her people. Serenia grabbed my arm. "Run!" But I couldn't leave her. Not after waiting 10 years. Not after everything she had told me. We darted through crumbling halls, the echoes of plasma fire chasing us. I used my sidearm clumsily, covering our retreat, while Serenia moved with a grace that betrayed her royal bloodline. Her hands weaving shimmering shields of energy from the old latticework embedded in the ruins. Still we were cornered. The karate commander stepped forward. His armor cracked and jagged. His voice a metallic growl. "The lost princess of Velareth," he sneered. "You should have stayed forgotten." Serenia raised her chin. "And yet I am remembered." His gaze shifted to me and he laughed. "By a human boy. Pathetic." Something in me snapped. "I'm not just a boy," I said, leveling my weapon. "I'm the one who came back." The firefight that followed is a blur in my memory. Flashes of light, the roar of collapsing stone, Serenia's hand gripping mine as we stumbled through smoke and dust. By some miracle, my distress beacon reached the Terran ship above, and reinforcements swept down like thunder. The karate fled, dragging their dead, snarling promises of return. When the dust cleared, Serenia stood beside me, her shoulders straight though her eyes glistened with unshed tears. "You chose to stay," she whispered, "even when it meant death." "I promised," I said again. The ending. The Terran captain was furious when I brought Serenia aboard, demanding explanations. But the moment she spoke, the room shifted. Even hardened soldiers leaned forward, spellbound. She carried herself like a queen, every word edged with authority and sorrow. She requested sanctuary. Not as a refugee, not as a beggar, but as an ally. There were debates, of course. The politics of sheltering an alien princess whose enemies still hunted her were dangerous. But in the end, Earth had always been a home for the displaced. We could not turn her away. As for me, on the observation deck days later, she stood beside me, gazing at the swirl of stars.